How y'all doing today? Great. Awesome. I had to start with that because several years ago when my granddaughter Michelle was very young and her sister was very young as well, my husband and I paid back our son for years of playing Kiss and Black Sabbath while he was trying to learn how to play guitar. And as payback to them, we gave our granddaughters a drum set and a guitar and a microphone. And what was Shelley, about 6 years old at that time?
I don't even think she was that old, maybe 4 or 5.
She absolutely astounded us by stepping up to the microphone and saying, "How y'all doing today?" But I'm going to call what I'm talking to you about today from aspiring writer to keynote speaker the PennWriters way. And I am so proud to be standing here today with people like Annette and Carol and Jessica and all of the wonderful people who are part of this organization. And I remember my first conference, and I'm going to talk to you about that a little more. But one of the things I thought as I sat at one of these tables was, that's going to be me someday. And I don't know if you aspire to that. And I can imagine as I look around here, some of you thinking, gosh, I hope I don't have to wait until I'm as old as she is. And maybe a few of you might be thinking, thank God there's still time for me. But whichever it is, you're in exactly the right place with exactly the right people. I credit this organization, the wonderful people here, and the services they offer, and the classes they offer for any success that I have. I came here as an aspiring writer, and they taught me to do what I do now. So, again, you're in exactly the right place. Now, I didn't start writing at that point. I started writing when I was 8. On a rainy summer afternoon, when my best friend's mother got sick and tired of listening to us running through the house and giggling, and said, "Will you two please be quiet, sit down at this table, here's a piece of paper and a pencil, write something." Now, I had no idea that I could write a story, never thought about it. I loved to read, loved books, and I sat and looked at that blank piece of paper for what seemed like an awful long time. And then the story started to come. And that woman gave me a gift on that day that I didn't know I wanted. Because at the end of the day, when it was time to go home, and she handed me the papers that I had written, and she said, "Bobbi, this is good. You should continue writing." Well, being a good Catholic girl, I obeyed. Now, in preparation of this event, I had heard that they have something called the Off the Wall contest, where you could put your story up on the wall and it would be voted on by the members and everybody who was at the conference. And I happened to have written a short story called Surviving Isabel, and that came about because I was on the PennWriters Yahoo group, which is how people in Area 7 communicated at that point, on a stormy night, and we kept getting thrown off, and finally we gave up and said, this is God's way of saying, write a story about a storm. And we will share it the next time we go up. So it was very short. It was going to fit on the Off the Wall contest, so I brought it, and my husband said, "You're going to win." Of course. I mean, of course he would say that. So at the end of my very first conference, I had a writing professional say, "Wow, that's writing." And at the end of the conference, the story won. So I'm thinking, maybe I can do this. So that's when I decided to start my goal, see if I can get published, because I'm going to write the great American novel, and I'm going to be a New York Times best-selling author, even though it hasn't happened yet. But I wanted to have some clicks in place first. I wanted to have some credibility. So I set the goal of submitting at least once a month for a year. And I beat that goal. I mean, 3 or 4 times, sometimes 6 times. I entered contests. I submitted to magazines. I put out as much stuff as I possibly could. And after 6 months, I made my first sale. And I figured it'd take 6 months because it takes a long time to hear from some of these people. 2 months later, I made my second sale. So I'm going around going, hoop-de-doo, la-di-da, I can write, and I should have been doing this for a very long time. But then the rejection started coming. I had been putting out so much stuff for so long, it was inevitable. Here they came. One day, 2 or 3 the next day, and I'm thinking, somehow I fooled those first 2 people into thinking that I could write. And I felt really bad, and I was walking around the house singing, I'm just a big fat reject. Over and over again. Until my poor husband looked at me and said, but honey, you're not fat. Oh, and by the way, one of those rejections was from Mr. D.T. Moore for the story that he had loved so much. And I learned that day that just because it's good doesn't mean it's right for that publication. A Couple Coming from Sisters was the story of me and my 3 sisters, and I had the advantage of having a real twist to the story. I'm one of 6 children. I was the second one born, which meant for a period of time I was the bratty little sister that my big sister Kit and my cousin Dee, who lived upstairs, wanted nothing to do with. So a portion of the story was that relationship. And as one of 6 children, eventually our baby sister was born and I became the middle sister. And she was 15, I was 15 when she was born, and I had to take care of her. So another part of the story was written about that relationship. And then sadly, our older sister passed away, and I became the older sister. So the story was written about your relationship in the family and how that affects who you are and how you deal with people. And it ended with the baby sister and me as adults caring for our dying mother, and we're coming together just as sisters, and it didn't matter how old we were. My next goal was to teach a workshop, and I knew all about rejection, so I taught about dealing with it. And I still teach that workshop and other workshops as often as I can. And the funny thing is, I always learn from my students. Because with PennWriters, I learned not to be afraid of new subjects or genres. Now I write and I'm published in newspapers and anthologies and fiction and creative nonfiction and children's book. I joined the board of directors and learned how much work goes into providing the services we get as members, and how willing all these people are to share their knowledge and their time, and how very lucky we are to be here today. So, from inspiring writer to keynote speaker, the PennWriter way, that's my story.